So today's video is on two chapters, the Fireboat and the Patronus. And I will have to admit that my reading of these chapters, and actually this entire book now, has changed recently. To help out one of my profs in our class, right now we will be doing The Crucible, which is actually a play that focuses on the Salem Witch trials. And reading it has been utterly terrifying, and I suddenly remembered the fact that from page 1, this book is actually framed by the witch trials. And the thing is, that is sort of something easy to say if you don't know a whole lot about the witch trials. So pardon me as I go on a bit of a tangent. I'll be focusing mostly on Salem simply because that is one of the most iconic witch trials, and it is one that was this epidemic. It swept in, devastated the place, and then basically vanished. Because what's actually happening is we've got a couple girls who fall into fits. This fit having spreads to some of the other women, mostly in the area. And in asked who is tormenting them, they point to a servant of color. She is brought to a hearing, not directly to a trial, because they have to figure out whether or not trials are actually needed. She is brought to a hearing, and even within these hearings, all the girls who are supposedly affected by these witches are actually present, and they're all flipping out. So what actually happens with this servant, and with the other men and women who are accused of witchcraft, is these trials get down to confess or you die. Do you see the problem here? Either admit you're a witch and you'll live, or stick to your guns and say you're not a witch and we're gonna kill you for it anyways. And the reason why this is happening is because what's being taken in as evidence is spectral evidence. And this is the women who are in fits are claiming, for the most part, that they are seeing the specters or images of these people they're accusing of being witches, tormenting and harming them. And the strong possibility, of course, is it's not somehow the women projecting themselves, but the women and men who are being accused of witches have signed the devil's book and given the devil permission to use their form to torment others. And this seems laughable, of course, because our court system is supposedly designed on this idea of innocent until proven guilty, which was not happening with these trials at all. These people went in knowing full well that as of being accused of being a witch, you either said, yeah, I am a witch, and these other people are witches, and lived, or said, no, I'm not a witch, and died anyways. Like, that was guilt until proven innocent, and you couldn't prove yourself innocent. Because, interestingly, with Salem specifically, it was stated that sort of the one proof that you weren't actually a witch is that witches could not speak the Lord's Prayer. And, of course, the case they showed this on was a woman who probably didn't speak English, like, at all. And no matter how many times they repeated the Lord's Prayer to her, she couldn't accurately repeat it back to them. So that made her a witch, not somebody who didn't speak the language. And that was sort of pre-Salem. And then Salem hit, and they accused a minister went to hang the minister, and the minister, with the noose around his neck, proceeded to say the Lord's Prayer. And so the crowd went, "Oh God," and went to stop the execution. And some of the other ministers and judges actually stepped in and said, "No, he's been proved to be a devil and a demon, and he will hang." So suddenly you had no way to prove you were innocent, because they hung him. Like, the one proof that he possibly had to save his life. And they threw it out. And all of this, for these chapters, actually comes into it. Because we are suddenly hitting a lot of points that should be pointing us towards Sirius Black, but it's not just Sirius Black. These chapters are just filled with either the hearings before a witch trial or some form of witch trial themselves. We have this automatic assumption by Harry to see everyone he heard talking about Sirius Black as guilty for never having given him this information. And it's only through Harry being a good person that actually stops him from that, because he goes to confront Hagrid, and Hagrid's not going to be able to defend himself from that. Even if he just honestly didn't think of telling Harry who betrayed his parents. Which is a possibility. Hagrid's been focused on many other things. And we've seen in the first book that he has a tendency to say things when he shouldn't. So the fact that he's not brought this up, it's strongly possible simply because it never occurred to him as something that Harry would want or should know. And it's only through Hagrid being upset and Harry recognizing, okay, now is not the time. And that's really on Harry, because if Harry wanted to, Harry could have pushed this "why didn't you tell me" all the way through. But he didn't. I mean, Ron and Hermione were a little worried he would, but it's Harry. He's actually nice enough to recognize, no, this person is suffering as I'm suffering. And he sees kinship in that suffering. But not in a way that these witch trials are seeing kinship. A lot of the kinship with witch trials is either you're in fits with these other women, or if you're accused of witches, then you are in kinship to all these other people that you're then going to accuse. The other interesting thing is the people that hung refused to say they were witches. They were also the people that refused to name any other witches. They didn't give names of other people and have them set to trial. They just kept it to themselves. Which was, must have taken a lot, knowing full well they were gonna die. It doesn't seem like we're quite at that serious point in time. Okay, so Hagrid didn't say some things. And then we have Buckbeak. And Hagrid recognizes that Buckbeak will get a witch's trial, no matter what is said. Hagrid is gonna take Buckbeak to this trial, and Buckbeak is going to be found guilty, no matter what. And there is nothing that Hagrid or any of these kids can do. And it shows how innocent these kids actually are, that in all honesty they think, no, this isn't how it's supposed to work. Well, if we just prove that he's a good hippogriff, I'm sure we can do something. It is Hagrid who is recognizing how diseased and corrupted this trial process actually is. Because he went through it too. And he says he can't do it again. He can't go back to Azkaban. And it's simply because he knows that everything is already biased against him. any time he's going to come up against the law, it is going to be with the fact that he's already been accused of something, the fact that he's got giant's blood, the fact that he likes these dangerous animals. It's all gonna just repeatedly, the fact that he was expelled, it builds up, and suddenly he can't trust the system because the system will never work for him. And this gets us thinking, or it should get us thinking. If the system didn't work for Hagrid, is it possible that the system hasn't worked for others? Is it possible the system didn't work for Sirius Black? And that is exactly what we're going to find out. We have a witch trial framing this entire book because a witch trial is what Sirius Black is facing. Because he didn't even get a trial. Like, boop, pop, woo, we solved it. No, you didn't. You just threw an innocent man in jail. And then what actually happens from this? Well, we can see the kids' innocence and trust in the system in the small moments with Hagrid and Buckbeak. You can see how it's already affecting them because we've suddenly actually got this witch trial attitude within the trio. With Hermione against the Firebolt, and then Ron and Harry against Hermione. Because Hermione right away just assumes that there is something wrong with the Firebolt. But she doesn't bring evidence to the people that she should first. She should honestly speak to Ron and Harry and say, no, listen, logically, yes, this is cool, but it is too convenient. There is no tag to it. Even Dumbledore, who didn't sign his name, gave you a tag. There is somebody that we are pretty sure, that we know now, knew your parents and betrayed them, or at least they think he's betrayed them, and we're pretty sure is after you. Who has access to places he shouldn't have access. Because that's one of the things that a lot of people are like, well, he couldn't have gotten to degree. He got into the school, he got right up to the dorms, and soon he's gonna get right into the dorms. So what's actually happened here is Hermione decides that she can't present these proofs to Ron and Harry. So she goes automatically to McGonagall, and then they don't have a chance at defense. Because that broom is considered suspect right from the get-go. It is considered guilty until proven innocent, and interestingly enough, we can actually do that with an inanimate object. It might be cursed. Okay, we've gone through and checked. There's no curses to it. Here you go. Except this can't be done for a person. We've gone through, okay, this works for an inanimate object. Great. You did this thing. I didn't do this thing. Prove that you didn't. What? So what we get tempted to do here, though it's dressed really interestingly, is we get tempted to follow this idea of guilty until proven innocent. Because McGonagall does it with Trelawney. Trelawney comes down, and McGonagall automatically says a whole lot of things that basically insinuate that Trelawney is a fraud. You are a fraud until you prove that you are not a fraud. And we go along with it, because we think Trelawney's a fraud. Oh, your lifelines are very short. Oh, I can't sit at the table. There's only 13 people. We're laughing at her because she hasn't proved what we need to know. Why should she have to prove anything? That is why the system is supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, because it is a lot easier to prove that somebody did do something than it is to assume the person did it and then prove otherwise. It's frustrating, yet we are actually falling into this trap. But again, the fact that it's then paired with the firebolt is weird, because some of us probably back Harry and Ron here. Because Hermione is suddenly doing this thing that Sirius Black is accused of doing. She's betraying her friends to a higher authority that she trusts in. So do we see her as being purely wrong in that moment? Yeah, except we're risking another witch trial there. She is wrong until she can prove that she is not wrong. Again, it is Harry who makes the decision not to do that. Because Harry believes that she is wrong. When he gets the firebolt back, he realizes, no, it might have worked out for me in my favor, but I don't think she was malicious in doing it. And it is Harry that, while they do not make a direct apology, at least extends overtures of friendship again, and going over to speak to Hermione. Because if we say that Hermione was completely wrong in what she did, then she has no chance to prove that she had honest concerns in mind, which she did. So we actually can't completely agree with either group here, or we risk running into the fact that as much as we want the world to be black and white, it's not. It's a whole lot of shades of gray. Just like we were talking in the last video. And to automatically say a person is wrong no matter what, we are actually risking this witch trial from happening. And that's dangerous territory, because exactly what we've seen with the Salem Witch trials is it spreads. Because suddenly people who are in the limelight are panicked. And as the saying goes, misery is love's company. So you're going to start pointing to everybody else. And that's going to be the super interesting thing going forward, because this book is framed with the witch trials. But this is not a book where we get a trial that we are going to see. There are several other books that we are going to see some trials. And I think we need to keep the Salem Witch trials in mind. And Rowling is pointed to it directly. Okay. Another quick thing, and sort of really cool, is of course in this set of chapters we get Trelawney again, and Trelawney gives us this weird prediction about when 13 dine, the first to rise will be the first to die. And Ron and Harry both get up and she demands to know which one said anything first. And McGonagall again does this laugh off, well, unless there was an Axeman like directly outside the door, forgetting of course that Sirius Black is being seen in the school. This prediction actually goes to the Deathly Hallows. Because when they collect Harry from his house and they fly off and they reconvene at the Burrow, we actually have 13 people dining together. Remus Lupin stands up to say that he will go and collect Moody's body if he can. And of the people there, in the order that we know that they died, who are eating, Remus Lupin dies first. Innocent until proven guilty. Because everyone's writing Trelawney off. But we're gonna realize that she's got a little more insight than we thought of before. So let's not burn the witches too quickly. or hang them in really terrible ways. Let's just not burn or hang anybody. With that little knowledge factoid, I'm going to keep reading, and I hope you guys do too. Bye!